Welcome to this video on using powdered dyes to dye fabric in an exciting new way which was invented by my friend Juanita. Now the dyes I'm using are Dylon dyes and they are for cotton fabric. So I'm just going to dye an old cotton singlet so that you can see how the technique works. First of all, spread it out flat on a table that can handle wet and dye. And now I'm going to sprinkle it with salt. My salt is a bit clumpy, so I'm going to rub it in, but the salt is necessary because it does help the dye set properly. Now I've put my dye into a container that has sprinkle holes in the top, and I'm going to sprinkle the dye on the shirt. Actual quantity is entirely up to you. Spraying it with a spritzer bottle helps to spread the dye. Now I'm going to put red dye on the front of this shirt. Probably wasn't the best choice of colours, especially when I started to rub the red dye in. It ended up looking a little bit like blood stains on the front of the shirt. So now I am going to rub some of the dye in, and this is where the artistic expression comes. You can rub or not rub, whatever takes your fancy. Just experiment and play with it, and if you've rubbed it in some areas, you can sprinkle more dye on top. It's just fascinating the way the dye behaves. This is sprinkling some more on top, and I wanted to get some more on the side where it's not very much dye yet. So now I'm going to use another technique where you tip water on. The more water like this means the dye spreads further. The colour's just not quite as intense. All part of the exciting process though. Now I'm turning the shirt over and you can see just how much dye has come through to the back. You may feel that that's enough. I actually prefer to add more to the back as well. Now see how where the shirt was creased, it's made these sharp lines? That's another exciting aspect of this technique. You could leave that white area as it is, but I decided to add more dye powder to it. And I forgot to add the salt. If you forget, you can add it later, but if you add it later, you really do need to rub it in. And so now another squirt and just rub it round. Now as I said, I like to add a bit more dye to the back. Now if you really wanted to, you could put plastic in between the back and the front and do something different on the back. Whatever you want, just have a play. This time I did remember to add the salt, but you don't need to watch the whole process again. So the main thing is, when you're happy with the result, you're going to put it in a microwavable container. My container has a space for water at the bottom, but that's not essential. The main thing is that the garment stays wet and that your container has a lid. You're kind of steaming it. So I put it on, in this case, on high for 6 minutes. When I'm doing a dress, I put it on for longer, and sometimes I have to refold it to make sure it's hot in the middle. A smaller garment, you might have it for less time. When it's fully heated, take it out of the microwave and rinse the excess dye out. Then you can cold wash it in the washing machine. Here's the finished shirt and another singlet that my friend did. And sometimes we embellish the garment with extra pieces of t-shirting that have been made into flowers and all sorts of things. I am really enjoying making dresses with this technique and playing around with the dye. As you can see, I've made a few dresses. Sometimes I paint on them. Painting through stencils is one of the things I do. You will see a video I've done already on how to paint with stencils. The main thing is to have fun, explore, and just let it happen. If you have enjoyed this video, please take the time to follow me on YouTube, Twitter, and my Facebook page. Thanks.